Thank you. And I even have a couple little slides. And I want to say, bonjour, je parle français un peu, mais je connais not a lot.
C'est pas grave.
Okay. Ma mère est français, et elle a étudié français when she was like, in grade 10. So I do think it's great for us to continue learning and using our languages and practicing it. So I have a slide here. I'll see how this works. Oh, are these? Well, that's me. There we go. I want to say, first of all, what an honor it is to be able to share and some ideas about Canada, because I am absolutely a proud Canadian. And when I see that Canadian flag, it just makes my heart sing. And when I was talking to my kids about ideas about what we can talk about today, and we looked back at 1967 at Expo and our celebration, it came to my mind about the song Canada. I won't sing it. And it just got us talking about, yeah, it's a pretty amazing country that we live in, and we're pretty incredibly blessed. And I was telling my kids, okay, so it's going to be the 150th birthday, and my little Gracie goes, Mom, that's only 100 years more than you. I go, well, will be. So anyway, we had some fun talking about ideas, and being able to be an athlete and representing Canada, to wear the Canada on your back and to see the Canada flag go up. I remember hearing the Canadian anthem and going, that's the most beautiful flag in the world. And so to be able to share with you some thoughts around what we can do as Canadians and what we're made of, I was asked to share some collaborations that impacted me, and amazing collaborations, because I think what we're going to do with Canada is going to be all around how we can collaborate together. So I'll mention three that were very important in my life. One, of course, was getting to the Olympics. That was a collaboration. No athlete gets there by themselves. And it's a 4-year plan. It's more than a 4-year plan to get there. It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of team coming together. It's a common vision. Another huge collaboration that I was honored to be a part of was co-chairing our United Way campaign here in Calgary. And when you see the collaborations of all the different organizations working together for a common goal to make this city a better place, it's pretty incredible. And I had a wonderful challenge, if we can look at it that way. I co-chaired for Calgary in 2008, and we set our goal in the summertime, and it's a long process setting the goal of what your target is, and they set it for 3% above what they had done the year before, which was just over 50 million. Well, we set target, announced it, and of course, you know what happened to the economy in 2008. The amazing thing was to see how Calgary rallied together, not just to hit a number, but because we knew that the need was so much more when we were in a challenged time, because it was everybody that you knew somehow was affected by what was happening in the economy. To just see how Calgary pulled together, they thought if we hit 40 million, that would have been amazing. We hit 49.5. And that's just what shows you what we're made of when we have a common goal and it's bigger than us. The last one I want to share is about, and it's really close to home, it's a collaboration that was with my kids that inspired me and realizing what was really possible. We went through a little challenging time a few years ago, and we were just getting our heads above water financially, and we got to this point of, okay, let's plan a family trip. And this collaboration started in the backseat of a car over a fight. And they started arguing, you're touching me, no, you're touching me. And I said, okay, let's change the environment here. Let's plan a family trip. So the kids they're at that time 10, 8, 6, and 2 years old. And where do you think they're going to want to go? Disneyland. Well, no, they wanted to go to Mexico. We had gone there a few years before. We had family that had a place down there, and they had made friends with little kids that were in shanties that lived right behind us. And, you know, it doesn't matter what language you speak. Kids have a way of connecting, and they just connected. And they said, Mom, could we go back to Mexico? And then, Mom, could we bring some stuff for the kids? They had brought soccer balls the time before, and I said, sure. And then they're like, what if we got some of our friends together to bring some toys? And then, Mom, could you imagine if we all just shared what we had? There wouldn't be anybody without. And so it went from there, dropped them off at school. My oldest daughter, who was 10, turned to me and she said, Mom, we're going to need a plane. And I'm like, okay. And so I get home and I kind of not thinking about it. Our house is still in boxes. And my daughter comes upstairs and she goes, Mom, I found a CD. And this is our song. And it was of this little boy named Billy Gilman, who was on Oprah years ago. And he sang a song called One Voice. Some kids have and some kids don't. And some of us are wondering why. Mom won't watch the news at night. There's too much making her cry. 1,000 prayers, a million words, one voice was heard. She said, Mom, we can call it a gift of love. So I'm going, okay, we've planted the seed. We've got them thinking big. So it's like, okay, we need to call in some action. So I had a friend of ours who they also had 4 kids, and they were one of the founders of WestJet, and phoned them to see what they thought. And they said, well, bring the kids in. And they made a presentation to 4 executives from WestJet. They're 10, 8, and 6 years old. And they turned and they said, you have a plane. Well, my mouth dropped. And I think because this picture was so much bigger than any one of us, right? What happened in the next 6 weeks was absolutely amazing. There ended up being phone calls saying, what's this about my daughter going to Mexico with your daughter? And I said, well, actually, and how are you going to do this? I don't know, but I know it's happening. And it was miracles every day when the picture was so much bigger than us. And we ended up in 6 weeks having 70 children from 22 schools who collected packages of love toys, something that it was their own thing. So it was something that meant something to them. Gently worn shoes, hats, school supplies. And then we had another friend of mine who had 4 children, and her husband did some work down in Mexico, and they decided they wanted to get on board to help there. And so the women of the Army and the Navy and the Rotary organized all the special needs schools and orphanages that the kids went to. It was amazing, and each one of these packages had a note for their new friends that they had. So they collected them from all their classmates. So 3,000 packages these children collected, and then they became the ambassadors who went and hand-delivered these packages and created these relationships with these kids. That, to me, showed me, don't tell me, if a 10, 8, and 6-year-old and all these kids can create something that big, what can we do when we put our minds together and it's bigger than us? I do have a few pictures here, so you can see. This was all the kids that went. We did it a second year, and they learned about sustainability, and they wanted to do something that was sustainable. So they did biosands water filtration systems, enough for 10 orphanages, and clean water for 2,500 kids. The whole thing is, they're saying if we just share what we have, there shouldn't be anybody without. That's doable. These were all the kids down in Mexico, so excited that these kids even cared enough to come and connect with them and see them. It was more than the gift. So I look at what can we do when we connect our kids and our country. Connecting our kids, one of the ideas is through schools, the technology, modern technology, to connect classrooms across the country, from Victoria to Prince Edward Island, from Newfoundland, collect these classrooms together where they can actually Skype or do whatever and learn about each other's cities, learn about each other's traditions, and learn about different areas and their different things that they do in their communities, and ask them the question, how do we celebrate Canada? Let the kids give us some ideas. They're the big dreamers. There's no limits on them, right? Let's engage everybody in this conversation. They're not just our future leaders. They're our leaders now given a chance. They don't have limits on them like we tend to as we get older. That's not possible, that's not possible. No, dream big. I put this up here. What the things that I experienced, that we have all experienced, that united our country, the torch relay going across the country. You know, when you thought about, oh yeah, the torch is going across, until it got to your city, and it's magical. The energy is bigger than the torch. It's the energy of a country coming together on such beautiful ideals. Who else went across the country with such big influences? A person with a vision bigger than themselves, Terry Fox, and imagine, like, look at all these kids and classrooms that are running every year because of that legacy that's been left. Rick Hansen, our man in motion, toured the world. Look at the legacy that he's left. He got a nation moving. He got a country moving. And so let's think about that for a moment. Our nation in motion. Man in motion, our nation in motion. And so here's another little thing to think about. Imagine our nation in motion, moving, being active. Look at the action, everyone running here, being active, doing something healthy and positive for our country. Could you imagine if we ended up being the healthiest, strongest country? That would be a pretty cool legacy. What's that take? Not a lot. What would happen if every Canadian had a little pedometer and you measured how much you moved and you set a target to do 150 miles over whatever period of time, right? Let's just move this country. Let's be healthy. Let's be strong. That's not a hard thing for us to do. When you're active and you're strong and you're healthy and you're moving, we have a strong, healthy nation that we can celebrate and to continue it to be strong and healthy. So these are just a couple of ideas that came to mind talking to my children and thinking about how do we make this country better? How do we engage? We have this vast country, but it's small, really, because we have the ability to connect, to grow, to be strong and healthy together. So a few ideas on celebrating our fantastic 150th anniversary birthday coming up really soon. Thank you.